Alright everyone, welcome back. Hope you're doing well, hope you're all keeping safe. There's been a lot of hype surrounding the Division Heartland of late, whether that be on Twitter with all the stuff that I've covered in my recent videos, or here on YouTube with myself and others covering what little news there is with excitement. And whilst all of that is great, because I do think that Heartland has the potential to elevate the Division franchise into the mainstream conversation, which would pave the way for a lot more Division related media, the Division 2's new content hype has really dwindled, especially after it was confirmed the release was going to be delayed to an indefinite date. I think that's a good thing, and I want to explain why. Drop a like and subscribe to stay up to date with all my videos. Let's get into it. I don't think anyone here can argue that too often we as gamers, if that's the right terminology, we're manipulated into purchasing games or expansions or whatever it might be following many months of marketing hype, and it doesn't matter how many times you tell yourself not to. If your favourite franchise releases, an awesome new trailer or, a new scripted gameplay, it's almost impossible not to get excited. I mean, I'm as guilty as this as probably all of you guys. I mean, I always pick up the next Destiny expansion. The hype that comes with that is just insane. And don't get me wrong, I enjoy that expansion for maybe a couple of weeks, but then I most of the time get kind of bored. But it's that initial hype that gets me there, and most of the time I do feel a little bit almost underwhelmed. It's that marketing that sets those expectations, and with marketing becoming so very important to the sale of a game or an expansion day one, which of course is very important to those shareholders and those publishers, it's no wonder these expectations are rarely ever met, where publishers have really fed that marketing beast. No better example of this is Ubisoft, who, for all its pitfalls, do rely heavily on marketing to promote and sell their games or expansions, and are very good at it. The latest example is none other than Rainbow Six Extraction, which is a game I've been very interested in. I think I even did a video on it a while back, and I've been following all the kind of news on it in the background, following numerous trailers and segments of gameplay and stuff. But having come out of the gate, it's reviewing pretty badly from what I can tell, and now that I've been able to see hours worth of footage, and I didn't pre-order or anything like that, and kind of breakdowns on what to expect from the game, I'm not going to be purchasing it. Ubisoft are masters in marketing. They know how to sell a game, and it's one of the main reasons why many of their games sell really, really well, even with games that really don't deserve to sell well. It's one of the reasons why many of their games, and this applies to many other publishers as well, never meet the expectations, even though the game itself might be a good game. No better example of this is No Man's Sky, although this isn't a Ubisoft title, just as an example of expectations not being met. I'd highly recommend you watch the video by Internet Historian on No Man's Sky, and this video really outlines in detail how it was impossible for that game to meet the sky-high expectations it had set itself. And I needed to say all of that because Ubisoft did it with a Division 2 at launch, and more recently, the Warlords of New York DLC. The trailers, the marketing for the Warlords DLC was very strong, and as usual, very, very good. All that marketing built up a lot of excitement within the community, and of course that breeds expectations. Now, I'm not saying Warlords didn't meet my expectations, because overall I think it did. But as with any game or DLC or expansion now, I've learned to control my expectations. I think many players who no longer play the Division 2 would say Warlords never met their expectations, but that might not be because the DLC was bad, but more because the marketing machine at Ubisoft and the overall hype surrounding that DLC had created expectations that could never, ever be achieved. So with all of that in mind, what are your expectations for the new content coming out this year for the Division 2? Let me know in the comments down below. Now, I suspect most of you will have very low expectations at this stage, and I suspect that will mainly be because the marketing machine is not started yet, and also, of course, it's been delayed to an unknown date. If I'd asked that same question prior to the delay, perhaps, I reckon a lot of you would have probably been very excited. We had 2 months worth of intelligence annexes, and we were starting to see what we can expect from the new content. I reckon the vast majority of you would have said, yeah, do you know what, I'm excited and my expectations are here and they're not down there. I wonder how many of you will still have low expectations once we start getting trailers for maybe for new Manhunts, or we start getting gameplay with new exotics and weapons, and we learn about this new game mode, for example. It's almost impossible not to get excited, and expectations change accordingly. But I implore you to try your very best to keep a level head. Something I've been guilty of not doing myself for so long. I say that coming from a position that knows a lot more than I have permission to say about the new content. And you're just going to have to believe me and trust me with that. I can't say anything more than I've just said, and even that I'm not sure I should be saying, but oh well. Ultimately, I'm making this video because I don't want people to be disappointed with the new content, and there's no doubt there's some cool things that are coming for sure. But as I said, we have a tendency to get super excited, and you can only go down if you're at the highest peak. If you start at the ground floor, you can only really go up. I suspect the new content won't live up to the high expectations we've all been guilty of having with new stuff through no fault of our own, as I've explained. You know, this is all to do with marketing and building that hype. But please keep a level head, and I bet you no matter what the devs bring, you're going to be happy with the new content if your expectations are kept on the ground. Ultimately, I just want you guys to enjoy the new content, and I feel as though that with many games these days, of course there's many games that are just broken and DLCs that are broken, expansions are broken. You look at Battlefield, for example, absolutely broken game. It wasn't even so much the expectations with that game, it's just the fact that the game was so broken and it just doesn't really fit into, it doesn't really have the identity of a Battlefield game. And so many games and DLCs and expansions are doing that, where they're either coming out broken or they're not as advertised, as it were. I don't think that'll be the case with the Division 2's new content. It will be very much the Division 2, and it will be what you expect in terms of new content. However, I suspect Ubisoft, as they do with everything, are going to want to really hype up this new content. They're going to want to put trailers out and all that sort of stuff. And they're going to want to get the expectations right up to Everest, right to the peak of Everest. But if you do that, you are going to be disappointed regardless of how good the content is, because it will never meet that. And that's really all I wanted to say. In terms of new content news, there's been nothing since the delay. Various creators have reached out to Yannick for a time frame on the next Intelligence Annex, but as of yet, I haven't seen a response from Yannick. It could be because I've missed it, but I don't think it is. I do check this on a daily basis. I think we have maybe 2 more Intelligence Annexes left. So I don't think the next annex will be until maybe March, with a release in May. If I had to guess, that is purely speculation. I have no idea when this new content comes out. It's quite possible it might be much later than that. I think it all comes down to how quickly the devs can make sure this content is up to scratch. And also, I think it also comes down to the fact that maybe some of the content that's been made already isn't quite hitting the mark, and that's why it was delayed in the first instance. I hope you all have a good weekend. Thank you for sticking around until the end of this one. If there is any news that drops from now until kind of Monday time, then of course I'll try my best to cover it here on the channel as soon as I can. But I'm not anticipating any real news for at least another couple of months at this point. Turn notifications on if you don't want to miss any of my videos. Until the next one, Epic out.